Hey everyone, this is Aniket with the Power of Storytelling, and today we have Trang Truong. Hey Trang, thank you so much again for doing this interview with me.
Yeah,
So
great.
you just graduated from UC Irvine with a degree in psychological sciences. So congratulations.
Thank you.
But before we talk about all of that, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what your childhood was like. So can you tell me a little bit about your family and just some of your childhood experiences and how it shaped who you are today?
Yeah. So I grew up in a very small town, and like my parents came from Vietnam. So they worked very like low paying jobs growing up. But then earlier on, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. Um, and so basically my mom was like paying for our family, and growing up, like I had my dad around. um I guess like growing up, we would take walks on the beach a lot in the mornings, and then he would make me go to church in the mornings, which was like a fun experience. It was just at like 6 a.m., which kind of shaped me into who I am today, because now I just like wake up at that time, and I don't want to wake up at that time, but I do. But it's like useful now. And so growing up, since my dad, like, he was like a stricter parent, so I stayed in a lot, and it was basically a lot of, beach walking and reading books growing up. So like I remember in 5th grade, I got like the just like I was the girl that read the most in class, because I just didn't have any friends either. That's
You
kind of
also talked about how, because your parents were immigrants, that they didn't really speak that much English either. So, how do you think that those kind of cultural differences between their upbringing in Vietnam and your upbringing here, how do you think that that translated to your life?
um I I feel like it definitely made me a lot, like it kind of forced me to learn by myself, because they never had the experience here with education. So I guess a lot of like self-learning. And I guess for them, like I guess my parents were considered more chill Asian parents. Like my dad would always be like, try your hardest, but if you don't succeed, then you tried hard enough. So that's kind of like the mentality that I grew up with, and I feel like it was harder for them back then, like learning and not having as many resources. But I've been blessed to have like my family around, like just like my aunts and uncles helping too. Yeah.
And you mentioned for a second kind of the health issues that your parents have struggled with, and you did talk about how your experience swimming was a big part of kind of your escape from that. So can you talk a little bit about what swimming meant to you, or what other things like that meant to you when things were tough with your family or any other situations?
Yeah. So swimming, like, it was something that my dad forced me into. Well, like when he was diagnosed with cancer, he kind of told my brother and I that we were going to do all these things like swimming, and then like there was like a beach program each year, with like swimming there too. So I honestly wasn't an athletic kid growing up at all. And swimming was kind of like the first time in my life where I was like, wow, like I might actually be kind of athletic. um, and so it was a place where I like broke a lot of my expectations for myself, because growing up I never saw myself as someone who's good at sports or anything. But like around the time that my dad was like fighting cancer, he also like drove us to swim practices like a lot, to the point that during winter breaks he would bring us to the pool, and the pool would be like 32 degrees. And I don't know if that's considered child abuse, but he was just like, yeah, so you guys had to do 100 laps before we leave. Um, so that was a lot of what my childhood was. Just breaking, like swimming, it was especially just like breaking the barriers of what I once thought was me. And now I enjoy, even though I don't swim as often anymore, it kind of shaped my interest in athletics and health. Yeah.
And you also talked to me a little bit about your stutter as something that impacted you throughout your throughout growing up. So how do you feel that it did impact you as a child, as a growing teenager, and even today, now that you've graduated college?
It definitely, so I don't consider myself a shy person, but with my stutter, I was definitely labeled shy for like all my childhood, all of high school, honestly, like some of college too. Um, like I guess like having stutter kind of stopped me from speaking up when I had a thought in my head, and whenever I thought out something like through and said it and stuttered, I felt like people didn't take me as seriously, and I guess that played a lot into my confidence issues growing up. Um, and how I overcame that is, I think once high school ended, I was like, okay, fresh start. And I started to like develop a very like healthy lifestyle, like more than that of high school. And I surrounded myself with really good friends. And that's when my confidence started to grow. And that's when my anxiety around my stutter was like lifted off. And even now and then I still stutter, and sometimes I might not be able to say anything, but now I refrain less from speaking up. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think it's really interesting because whenever I think about your story and what I've heard so far, I think about empowerment. Like from you started the first chapter of She's the First at your school. You've encountered numerous bouts of adversity, what you want to do in the future. Everything just reminds me of empowerment. So, what lessons do you feel like you learned on this journey of empowering not only yourself but also the people around you? And I guess what kind of advice do you have for other people looking to find that same sense of empowerment within themselves?
So I think the journey up is definitely never pretty. Throughout the years, like it's not just like 1 year your whole life changes. Sometimes it's 4, 5, 6 years. I think for me it took around like 8 years to fully grow into myself, and that was through like growing up overweight at first. That like sparked a lot of confidence issues, and like I had a lot like a lot of like bullies. And then also like having skin problems growing up. I had the most severe acne in high school, and before having acne I had like all these skin infections from swimming. um, and that also was a big barrier in my life. And just like having my parents both have cancer, um, like just the journey was never ever pretty. And sometimes you grow when you're not realizing it um, at all. Like sometimes you need these years of hardships in order to embrace like the small amount of successes that you may gain. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, what do you think was like the turning point for you that made you realize that the successes and the self-worth that we all have within ourselves is something that you want to embrace?
um I think it was freshman year of college when I had just failed my last high school English class and I lost my admission to my dream school at that time. um that was when like I was like, okay, like the end of these 4 years of college, I want to be the best myself that I could be. Um, and that's what kind of just like made me excited for life all of a sudden, because I was working towards the best version of myself all of a sudden. And I was like, I'm done failing this much. Like, I think there's just a point where you fail so much. It's like, no, like no more, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. So now that you have gone through those 4 years, you have become the best version of yourself. Can you talk a little bit about your passion for health and wellness and psychological sciences and what you hope to do moving forward?
Yeah. Um, well, so I came in to college as like a speech like major because I wanted to eventually help people with my like stutters. But then I just realized that my passion for nutrition sprouts like way far back to when my dad was like diagnosed with cancer, and he like the doctor told him that he would survive only a couple years, um but he ended up surviving for like nearly 8 years from eating healthy. And and I feel like him getting me into swimming was also what got me interested in wellness. um yeah, so like I just wanted to help people become happier in ways that they could control, and that was through like wellness. Yeah. So
So in what ways are you looking to kind of foster that level of wellness within other people and like help them find that?
yeah, so honestly, I'm still at a point where I'm very open-minded to the opportunities that could come about life. And I don't really have like any like one specific job title that I want, but I do want to teach fitness to like many different populations, like specifically to like kids like me growing up. And eventually I do want to teach fitness and health at like the college level, or like possibly even open my own businesses. Like I have this business idea where it's like I want to start like a drive-through healthy smoothie joint. Yeah, it's like I just have a lot of like business ideas that I have, and I'm just trying to grow during this time in order to learn what like will help you bring those about.
Yeah, that's awesome. I might steal that drive-through smoothie idea. And I guess finally, one question I wanted to ask was if you could give one piece of advice or tell a younger person who is facing a lot of adversity or feels like they're in a hole that they can't climb out of. Like, what is one piece of advice that you would tell them or something that you would have wanted to hear?
um, I would say that there's always something good that could come out of adversity, even though it's losing someone really special to you, or it's missing out on like life opportunities that you couldn't have because they're gone. um, I think what really helped me is that adversity is like our gifts to you. And you could either choose to take that adversity and be sad, which is completely valid. Like it's valid to cope and be sad over what has happened to you. But if you could find like lessons out of each adversity, then there's so many lessons to take out of it. And there's so much happiness that you'll experience that could contrast to like the deeper points in your life.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. Well, Trang, thank you so much again for speaking with me today. I think your story is definitely one of beating the odds, and it's definitely inspired me. And I'm really excited to see what you do with the future. I really hope the driving smoothie thing happens, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you for having
Thank,
me.